Hello and welcome to the 49th episode of The Real List, a podcast about our real list. I'm your host, Ellis.
And I'm your host, Gloria.
And today we have a selection from me. This has been something I've been waiting to do, on not just on the show, but just been waiting to watch in general. This is almost a yearly tradition for me. I've skipped it a couple of years, but for the most part, it's a yearly tradition, thanks to my dad. As he would say, it's mandatory. He has a lot of movies on the mandatory list. But,
well, we also watched this movie before, but I fell asleep drunk.
Right. So, really, you only have the one viewing, because you did not remember very much of this.
No.
And I also, actually, I can't really say there was anything I didn't really remember. Like, I didn't watch this and go, oh wow, I never noticed that before. But there were things, I was a little bit fuzzy on the thing. I mean, I know how the movie went.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say this is like the greatest Christmas movie of all time, but it is probably Frank Capra's best movie, and it's criminal that it went unknown for decades. It failed at the box office, and then the copyright lapsed, and that's the only reason it got so much airplay in like the 80s, and in turn got popular. So yeah, it's an interesting story behind this movie and where it got where it is today. Because if the copyright didn't lapse, this would have been a completely unknown film. Like there's no way we would be talking about it because nobody knew it. It was just something that happened and it came and it went. But I do have a particular affinity for this movie. I do cry every time I watch it, which is kind of a high bar for me. And yeah, this is it's a movie about a man who lives in a quote-unquote one-horse town, and he feels like he's given up on all of his dreams so that he can sort of maintain the family business and help the people in his hometown and help the people in his family, until he's shown a world in which he was never born, at which point he sort of realizes that he has done all the great things that he wished to do. He just did them all in his hometown without being able to see the world. Because, he wanted to see the world, but he wanted to leave his mark on the world. And it's after he sees what Bedford Falls is like, or Pottersville is like, without him, he realizes he has very clearly made his mark on the world and changed the lives of many, many people. And there are people that, dispute if the message is good or not. And I think if you think the message isn't very good, you've sort of missed it. Because it's not... yes, he did have to set aside a lot of things, but the thing that he...
I mean, that's part of growing up. You have to do you have to put yourself aside to help the people around you a majority of the time.
I mean, yeah, it is about self-sacrifice, but it's about, you have still done great things, even if you didn't get to do what you wanted to do when you were a kid. And yet, when you watch the first hour and a half of this movie, you sympathize with him as he puts himself aside again and again and again. And you rolled your eyes because I know you're like, oh, this movie's so long.
This movie was 2 hours long, and we didn't even get to the part where he wishes himself out of existence until maybe 30 minutes before the movie ended.
Yeah,
it's like Space Jam all over again.
Oh, come on! That's being mean to this movie. It is. It is. Do you think the impact would have been any, the impact would not have been better if you missed out on any of that character development time? Because aside from Potter...
Oh, I hate him.
And he's just a villain. He's there to be hated. We get to know all the characters in this movie, and that's what gives it its emotional impact. What do you think they should have cut out?
I don't know. Maybe they should have cut out the part of him building was it Bailey's Town, or
when he's
building all those homes.
Martini in?
Yeah, when he's building all the homes. I feel like I get it, that's more character development, but I feel like it's unnecessary character development. We already knew what he was planning to do. We already knew what he was going to do. I feel like if they just cut to after, Martini is moved into his new home.
Well, it misses two important things, though. if you cut that out. Number one is getting to know Martini, and that's when, when he goes to the bar later, with Martini not being there after he's been unborn, it's a jarring change. Otherwise, you wouldn't recognize that as a change. And two, Sam Wainwright shows up, and he talks about the factory, so that comes back around, and then you see George is upset that he missed out on this life. This movie does not, despite being very long, I will stand by the idea that this movie does not waste time. Everything it piles on just adds to it adds to what you feel for George. But that's just me. I understand it is sort of slow, and
I also feel like the unnecessary wedding scene with him and Mary, that also should have been cut, because we already knew they were going to get together.
Okay, but you're gonna skip to after they're married without showing them getting married?
Well, you already know. Like, the house scene, the scene where they're at her house, and then they're just making out in her freaking front room. Like, you already can tell, like, from when they were children, like the whole dance scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can already tell that they're destined to get married in the movie.
Right,
like,
but you're not gonna not show it.
Okay, but they didn't have to show them. Well, they didn't even show, like, a ceremony. They just showed them coming down the stairs.
Exactly. It's already incredibly short.
I feel like they could have cut to after, like, they're already in the car, and the car's driving off saying, just married. I think that's enough notice to let them know to let the viewers know that they've been married.
Maybe. I feel like you miss the 30 seconds of fanfare.
I also want to know why Mary's mother hates George so much.
Yeah.
I want to know why that woman despises him with every fiber of her being.
What's he doing? What's he want?
Like, why do you hate this man so much?
Probably because he's given up on all of his dreams and is going to keep her trapped in Bedford Falls instead of whisking her away into the rich and expensive life like Sam Wainwright was going to.
But Sam Wainwright had a bitch on his arm while she was on the phone with him.
Yeah, but Mary's mom didn't know that. But that's a good detail. I do like that. You feel less bad about George swooping in and stealing Sam's girl because Sam's already got other prospects.
Sam's a player.
Sam is a player.
I
yeah.
also wouldn't want to be with a man who starts every sentence off with hee-haw.
Hee-haw!
I would punch him in his throat. I would literally deck that man in his throat.
Oh, man, it's...
After the third time he says it, I would punch him in the throat. And maybe castrate him. Just saying.
So his kids don't do that? Hee-haw.
So he won't procreate.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna start doing that. You'll have to make a very hard decision.
I will punch you in the throat. Be prepared.
Hee-haw.
I swear to God.
Hee-haw. I'm gonna start every episode. Hee-haw, this is the Realist Podcast.
I will never record another episode with you if you start doing that. And that's on record.
Next episode is Hamilton. You're not gonna miss that one. I'll be talking about Hamilton by myself.
Yes, you will.
Yeah.
Because I will do what George almost did.
You're gonna jump off a bridge?
Yes.
Well, okay, that's an important, what did you like about this movie?
Excuse
nice.
me, sorry.
No, there was no Ghibli food in this movie.
There was no Ghibli food in this movie. I like the fact that when he wished he wasn't born, he got his hearing back in his ear.
Yeah.
And then I also like the guy who's in the booth with Clarence and George, and he just slowly backs up, and you can see his shadow just disappearing.
Yeah,
slowly.
he just walks out the door.
He's just like, okay. And then
I died in it.
And then it was the fact where George was like, "Come on, we're gonna go to Martini's," and his car wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
The place, like, everything changed. I mean, I get it. He wasn't born.
Yeah, that's
everything
the point.
Changed, but like,
but their attention to detail on that.
Their
is
attention
great.
to detail is amazing. And then the guy with the tree, he was like, "This tree's been here for years."
It's the oldest tree in Pottersville.
Pottersville. Hi,
The
Lafayette.
scene with the bridge guy, the scene with the bridge controller. who backs out of the room, like you said, used to be probably my favorite scene as a kid. Like I said, this movie was mandatory. This was a watch it every Christmas movie for my dad. I mean, he wasn't militant about it, but it was our Christmas tradition to watch this movie. And as a kid, I probably felt about it even more negatively than you do.
I liked the scene with the angels, like in the beginning, where they're just in
the galaxies.
Yeah, where they're in the sky, and they're like, "Oh, this is what your angels are. This is what your angels, quote unquote, looks like."
Yeah, be not afraid.
And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool."
It was neat. I like how it has, almost like a Stephen King movie, it has a supernatural element without an explicitly religious overtone or undertone or overtone. It's, it strikes... I was doing a lot of reading about this movie between when we watched it and now, and it's the kind of movie that it has a pseudo-religious aspect, but isn't unappealing to people who aren't religious.
I also liked where they went to the house that was George's house.
Yeah.
And the cops, what was his name? Ernie? No, Ernie's the taxi driver.
Yeah, Bert. Bert and Ernie.
Bert and Ernie. Bert was wrestling Clarence to the ground, and he's like, Joseph!
Joseph!
Help! Joseph, help! And he just
disappears.
And the Bert's like, he was just here! Didn't you see him? And Ernie's like, I want to go get a drink.
Yeah. The last... I know, the first hour and a half is slow build-up. The last half hour is all sorts of wonderful payoff and just great movie.
I also like I like the ending a lot more than I liked the start of the movie, because the ending was the realization. It's like a Christmas Carol, kind of.
This was loosely based off of a Christmas Carol.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
So
that was one of the... Just as an aside, it was based off of a short story called The Greatest Gift by Philip Van Dorn Stern.
And it's loosely turned based on Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol.
Exactly. Which was exactly 100 years apart. A Christmas Carol published in 1843, and then The Greatest Gift published in 1943, which is very, very interesting.
I liked the ending where he's running through, Bedford Falls, and he's like yelling "Merry Christmas" to everybody, and everybody's yelling back to him because everybody knows him.
Isn't it great?
That's what I kind of strived for like growing up. Like, I wanted everybody to know who I was. Like, I wanted to everybody to know, because Rhode Island's fairly small.
Yeah.
It's not like I can run through Newport and be like, "Merry Christmas, everybody," and everybody's gonna be like, "Merry Christmas, Gloria."
But you wish you could.
But I wish I could, because it's like, it's the niceness in the feeling of knowing that you've made such an impact on the world.
And that's what he gets out of this. That's that's the message. It's like he wanted to be renowned, and he is.
And he didn't have to travel. He didn't have to, make a big mark on the world. He just stayed in his hometown and did by his hometown.
You know what would have been? You know what would have? I feel like solved a lot of the problems people have with the ending of this movie, is if they had made mention of, like, take this money and see the world. Do what you always wanted to do.
Oh yeah, he also spent his honeymoon money.
Yeah, because the stock market crash of 1929, the beginning of the Great Depression, happened literally as he was trying to leave for his honeymoon, and he had to keep the building and loan afloat using that money. Which, one of my favorite things about that moment and that scene is that, because I know Mary's been infatuated with him for the entire movie. The first time we see her,
she was like sitting at the counter of, like, what was it, a candy store?
It was Mr. Gower's drugstore, but yeah,
it was like candy store / drugstore.
It's whatever. A classic drugstore. It's like the CVS of its day. It's got a little bit of everything. Soft drinks and a little bit of pharmacy and a little bit of whatever.
But she was like, "Is this your bad ear? I'm gonna love you to the day you die."
The day and that's such a great little introduction for her, and it sets up all the rest of the movie.
And then you meet the trollop Violet. What a trollop!
Violet's fantastic. And there's a green pool up there, and we can swim in it. What are you, crazy? It's 10 miles up to Bedford Falls.
If it was Mary, she'd be down.
Exactly. That's
the thing. George doesn't need Violet. He needs Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Because Violet's too much of a priss, and Mary's a kind of loose, kind of like not loose, but like
Loose.
but like you know, she likes to let loose. She likes to like let her hair down.
She's spontaneous.
Yes.
She is a perfect fit for George, and I wish, if anything, I wish we get to see more of their married life.
I want to see this in color. I want to see this movie in color. I feel like the black and white is what put me to sleep last time.
We'll revisit. No, last time we were watching it in color.
Were we watching it
because
in color?
Gianna was like, I can't see black and white movies.
Oh yeah, that's right, and
So
I still fell asleep.
I borrowed the color copy from my dad because that was a Christmas gift to my dad one year. I was like, I found you a color copy of It's a Wonderful Life. I know this is, one of your favorite movies, so... And then I was supposed to get the black and white copy, and I don't know where it is. It's around here somewhere. It's not in my movie rack. We had to watch it on Amazon. But this movie is available on Amazon Prime with the subscription for free.
I wonder if you could find it in color on Amazon.
I don't know. That's a good question. Also, I was mistaken about one thing. I said that the snow was cornflakes. And most of the time, during the production of films of that era, snow was cornflakes. However, they used a special compound that used, like, soap flakes. For this movie, they had introduced a new compound.
Yeah, because it looked a lot more fluffier than, like, what corn... Because I can't imagine you using cornflakes.
What do you think the biggest problem with using cornflakes was?
They're too hard.
So what happens when you walk around on them?
They crunch.
So they had to redub all the audio. If you see any old movies, like, predating this is maybe... When did African Queen come out? Can you hold this?
1920 something.
The African Queen. Oh, 1951. So this is the oldest movie we've watched. For the real list or on our list in general.
Oh, I thought it came out way earlier.
No, a little bit later. It was set earlier. It was set in World War One.
So I had like the time era.
Yeah. Point is,
I don't think I could sit through that movie again. I'm gonna be totally honest
Yeah.
with you. It was like a fever dream mixed with Stockholm syndrome. Like you're two people stuck on a boat and you just decide to get married to each other because you're afraid you're going to die.
yeah, it's sort of like the ending of Speed. But this isn't about the African Queen. Maybe someday I'll convince you to watch it again, but
Nah.
It's an interesting film. But this is, him being able to set up that last, the run through the town of saying hi to everybody and everyone saying hi back. And the impact that it has when he goes around and he doesn't see certain people when he's dead. Or when he hasn't been born, rather. That's what that, first and second act is setting up.
I also want to talk about his brother.
Oh, Harry. Just real quick before you say anything, Harry wasn't there to save them because you weren't there to save Harry.
Mm-hmm.
What a moment. That's a killer moment in that film. But what about him?
Because, like I said, like I fell asleep the first time we watched this movie. So, I mean, watching it and then his brother just died. I was like, oh.
You missed what had happened. You were just like, why is his brother dead? That's very funny.
I was like with George on this one. He was like, just, my brother's dead, like.
Yeah. But
and then his mother running a boarding house.
Well, his mother always ran a boarding house.
Really?
Yeah, that was what she did. Their house was a boarding house. That's why they had the cleaner there. They're not rich enough to have, a housekeeper on their own. I mean, Lord knows they didn't barely have enough money to send one of their kids to college, let alone both of them. But they have the house cleaner there to help run the boarding house. She's an employee of the boarding house. She's also a very funny character.
She is.
I
was saving this money for a divorce, but I never got married.
Yeah. We're two old maids now. Oh, speak for yourself, Mrs. B. Yeah. And I love that. Just a lot of the stuff when George is a kid is very, very funny and very entertaining. The comedy woven into this movie is very understated, but there's a joke in almost every scene, and except when he's dead. Although Oh, here's another behind the scenes thing. Remember when Uncle Drunkenhead stumbles off screen and crashes into things and says, "I'm okay, I am okay." It's after
Uncle Billy?
Yeah, Uncle Billy. It's after, I think, when George graduated, or when Harry came back. When Harry came back from college, and they're having the party. And it's right before George goes out into the street and has his talk with Violet, and then goes to see Mary. He's standing out front, and Uncle Billy comes out, and he's like, "Where's my hat?" And George takes the hat off his head and then hands it to him.
He's like, "Which one? The middle one."
Yeah, and then he stumbles off screen, and you hear a big crash, and he says, "I'm okay." That was ad-libbed. That was a lighting tech knocking over a bunch of stuff by accident. And then that lighting tech got paid. Like, they gave him a little bonus for adding sound texture.
I'm okay.
By accident, yeah. Yeah, the "I'm okay" was totally ad-libbed. It's a really, it's a good little tidbit. But, what the hell was I going to say? The comedy about this movie, oh man, I wish I could remember now. I got distracted by the thing. Did you like Uncle Billy's house with the squirrels and birds and?
I was like, oh, he's a white man version of Pocahontas.
Okay, I was gonna go with Radagast the Brown, but
I don't know who that is.
He's from Lord of the Rings. But sure, he's Pocahontas. And then he loses the money
that freaking Mr. Potter had.
Yep. And he
can we talk about
no
Mr.
repercussions.
Can we talk about Mr. Potter for a second?
You can talk about repercussions.
Fuck that man.
Hey.
Fuck him.
Hey. Best line in the movie. "I'm an old man and most people hate me, but I don't like them either." So
yeah, you're damn right everybody fucking hates you. You're damn right. Oh my god, there was so many times I wanted to reach to the screen and just
tip him out of his wheelchair.
I did not know he was in a wheelchair this entire movie until I saw where he is, like, the guy's pushing him to the door to check on Uncle Billy, like, looking for the money.
Yep. And he's just like, hehehe.
Fuck that man. Fuck him.
I misplaced $8,000. Oh.
Screw him.
Yeah, right?
And then he tried to get George thrown in jail. Like,
well, George is probably going to get thrown in jail no matter what Potter did, considering his, considering, like, what would have happened to the bank and loan and him. He just sort of expedited the process. Not saying that makes it any better.
No, but Mr. Potter can rot in hell.
Mr. Potter is not great. Don't like him. But the fact that, again, a fantastic line of him going to the window and yelling, "Merry Christmas, Mr. Potter!" Just like, he's elated because he's alive, Mm-hmm. He's elated because of all the stuff that happened in his life and the things that he's done, that he realizes his life really has been worthwhile. That he has had a wonderful life, in the words of Clarence.
Also, Clarence had a book of Tom Sawyer, too.
Yep. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, which he gives to George at the end. Mm-hmm. Which, weird little parallel to, to the Polar Express, of him getting the bell at the end with the note, "Fix that hole in your pocket, Merry Christmas." Mm-hmm. That's what him getting the book reminded me of, and I never thought about that before. I actually that's one thing I did forget about. I forgot about the note.
We should have watched the Polar Express.
We still have time. We can watch it after Hamilton, I suppose.
No, we gotta watch Steven Universe.
Okay.
No, we can watch Steven Universe in the new year. We need to watch the Polar Express.
Well, whatever it is, it's gonna be in the new year. This episode has to come out. The next one has to come out immediately. Oh wait, no. Then we do have one more. We do have one more for New Year's. What is a New Year's movie? Oh, right, Ghostbusters 2.
We're not watching. We already did an episode on Ghostbusters 2.
I know. We did an episode on Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Oh.
Ghostbusters 2 is the one with the Statue of Liberty.
Oh my god, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Johnny says that's the better one of the pair.
Really?
He likes it better than the original Ghostbusters, and I was like, I don't know if that's
I can
accurate.
kind of see it. I mean, I like the aspect of the Statue of Liberty, but we're not talking about this movie. We're not talking about that movie.
We're not talking about
this movie.
Ghostbusters. No, there's only one ghost in this movie. Oh, did you like, again, with the setup and payoff, them throwing the rocks at the old house, and then that being the house that they move into?
I was like, so you're vandalizing your own house?
Well, that's, Mary is like, I've always had an affinity for that place, and then they move in there, and then you see she has the thing rigged up with the record player and the chickens over the fireplace. You remember that she has the record right after they're on their honeymoon, right when he walks in, they have the chickens cooking over the fireplace.
Oh yeah,
and they have the string tying it to the record player that's running it.
I liked that. I liked that a lot. I thought that was really cute.
It just goes to show how ingenious Mary is. I feel like a lot of Mary's character is shown indirectly. The only thing you get directly told is that she's infatuated with George, whereas the rest of it is like... And
woman got pregnant right away.
Yeah.
And they popped out 4 babies.
The rest of it is that you find out that she's not only a great pair for him, because, like I was saying, when there's the run on the bank and the run on the building and loan, and she comes in and is like, I've got $2,000, that's exactly what George would have done. And she just does it without provocation, without a second thought.
Yeah, she just holds up the money and she's like, take this.
Yeah, we will use this because she knows how much it means to George, and George means so much to her, and she's all about,
helping her husband.
Yeah. And at the same time, she is, despite being the 50s housewife, or, is also, she's an independent woman. She raises these 4 kids. She runs the house. She fixes up that old house pretty much by herself. Mary's such a great character. Also, I do like that in the World Without George, everyone's like these terrible fates. And what is she? She's a librarian. Ooh, she's single and a librarian. Ooh. The worst possible fate. But anyway, we should probably move into star ratings. Unless there's something else you want to talk about. I know I've done a lot of rambling, but this movie means a lot.
Fuck Mr. Potter.
This movie means a lot to me. Where is it? It's in here somewhere. Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life. Oh, it's down here. It's underneath Doom. What was this? This was 19... Oh, I didn't even go over, this is directed by Frank Capra, screenplay by Frank Capra and Albert Hackett and Francis Goodrich, starring James Stewart, Donna Reed. Donna Reed is Mary. Lionel Barrymore, who I think is that Mr. Potter? No, Lionel Barrymore is, hold on. Is he? Let me see.
Go up. A little more. Go up more. Uncle Billy? No. Go up. Yeah, Mr. Potter.
Oh, yeah, he was Mr. Potter. Okay, yeah. Which, it's very funny that... That's right. It's very funny that he was Mr. Potter because he had played Ebenezer Scrooge in the 1938 version of A Christmas Carol. So he was Scrooge and then he was Potter, which is very funny because Potter is the Scrooge of this film, in a way. And Thomas Mitchell, Henry Travers, blah blah blah. Gloria Graham, who is Violet, the harlot. Did you think? Actually, I have one more question for you. Did you think that, when she goes and he gives him the money, or he gives her the money and says, get out of, go to New York. When she's preparing to leave for New York, he gives her a little money and she kisses him on the cheek and he walks out and
I thought that he was going to go home with that lipstick on his face.
Yeah, I thought it was going to turn into a much bigger thing.
I thought he was going to go home with the lipstick on his face and Mary was going to see it and she was going to freak out.
Mm-hmm. But... she probably knew about it, and she probably totally understood that it was something completely benign. Because, even Potter knows about it. Potter knows about it immediately.
Everybody knows everything. It's a small town.
Yeah.
It's like small town drama. Everybody knows everything.
Yeah, This movie nails small town feel. We should
Small town
do
goss.
Pleasantville. We should watch Pleasantville next. Not next, but yeah. Sorry, this is 1946, 1947. Oh well, a little bit of both. I'm gonna do 1947. Oops. 1947. It's a Wonderful Life. We have in fact watched it. And I have no remorse in giving this thing 5 stars. This is a beautiful, wonderful Christmas movie. Even if it isn't, by some definitions, a Christmas movie. Because the fact that it's Christmas doesn't affect the plot at all. But it's definitely got the Christmas vibe, and it is set at Christmas. I wanted to launch into a thing about what makes a Christmas movie during this, but there's so much that I can talk about this film. So, I just burned up all the time. I'm sorry if I was preventing you from saying more. Well, what are you gonna rate it?
I'm gonna give it a 4.
You're gonna give it a 4? Okay. I was kind of expecting a 3.5. I was like, this is gonna be a pretty big disparity. I think it's, I definitely appreciate it now more than I did when I was a kid. Because when I was a kid, this movie was like, oh, we gotta watch it again. Oh, I'm so bored. And now I'm watching all this stuff unfold, and I'm like, oh, poor George. Poor George.
Are we gonna make our children watch this movie?
I mean, probably not every year, but at some point. When they're old enough to, like...
Understand.
Yeah, when they're old enough for it to matter.
Yeah.
Because, yes, it's an incredibly good Christmas movie, but it is slow. What?
They also mentioned diphtheria in this movie.
Oh, that's
as
right!
well.
I wanted to talk about that! Oh my god, there's so many things I wanted to mention. Yeah!
They mentioned
who had diphtheria?
The little boy that Mr. Gower almost poisoned in the beginning.
That's right! That's right. Yeah, so he was giving antitoxin. He was putting antitoxin in capsules for the little boy's diphtheria, which was a very funny through thread because I've never noticed that before because I didn't know what it was because I had never seen Balto, and that got mentioned. And I think we were both like, this the thing. Yeah, it's such a good movie. But yeah, it's the kind of movie that. It is a slow burn through the first 3/4 of it. I think it's a slow burn with a very good purpose, but you have to be aware of that and ready for that, and ready to just immerse yourself in this town and get to know these characters, and just that is worth it. If you're coming in because you're like, I can't wait to see the angel show up, you're gonna be bored for a while. But once you know what you're getting, I feel like it's much more palatable.
Teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings.
Absolutely, and so you should comment and ring that bell. Sorry, I couldn't resist. But yeah, if you want to see more of this next week, well, actually, as soon as we possibly can, because we are behind schedule.
I think we should probably watch it tonight when we get back from your aunt's.
I tend to agree.
My name is Alexander Hamilham.
We're gonna watch Hamilton, and then we're gonna be making an hour-long episode, probably with a face cam if I can figure out how to get that to work properly. And yeah, thanks for watching. And if you haven't watched It's a Wonderful Life this season, you've still got a day or so to do it.
Merry Christmas.
For Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. And we'll see you shortly.
Bye, guys.